Hi, this is Christian Cantrell for Watch Report, and today we have something a little bit unusual for you. You've probably seen the new iPod Nanos, and you've probably seen or heard that people are experimenting with using them as watches. So I thought I'd pick one up and do a quick review. I'm wearing one on a NATO strap. This is often referred to as a Bond NATO strap, and you can see it actually works very well because the watch clips just to the top layer of the strap here, which means that the bottom of the clip actually isn't touching my wrist at all, which makes it very comfortable to wear. And I have to admit, once I got this thing all set up and got it on my wrist, I was actually initially pretty surprised at how well it worked as a watch. It seems gimmicky, and I guess it is gimmicky, but at the same time, I was pleasantly surprised that it actually is a fairly functional concept. It's certainly not perfect, and so I'll go through the pros and cons of using the new iPod Nano as a watch. First and foremost, probably one of the biggest cons is that it's not waterproof or water resistant. So if you're going to be out in the rain, or you have to remember to take it off before you hop in the shower or jump in the pool or something like that. Usually even the cheapest quartz watches around are usually somewhat water resistant. So having something that's not at all water resistant may not work well for a lot of people. You have to remember to charge it. The battery life is pretty good on it, but you do have to remember to charge it. You can't just pick it up after a few weeks and throw it on your wrist and expect to be able to wear it for a day, because you'll find that the battery has died on you. If you use it frequently, though, it's not a big deal. You can't just glance at the time. As you're seeing here, I'm having to continuously activate the display because it keeps dimming. It's timing out. First it dims, and then eventually it turns all the way off after it completely times out. So you can't just glance at the time. You have to hit the button on top here. So you can see it just dimmed, and in a minute it'll time out, so you have to keep hitting the button. It's not very good in direct sunlight, as most backlit displays are sort of get washed out in the sun. So does the new iPod Nano. Now conversely, it does very well in the dark. So if you need to be able to tell the time a lot in very dark conditions, then having a backlit watch actually works well. You're only supposed to use this between 32 degrees and I think 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So there we go, the display just timed out entirely, so gotta hit the button again. That's a pretty wide range, temperature range, but around here it gets pretty cold in the winter, and I'm out shoveling snow. And in the summer when I'm riding in my Jeep with the top down, it's not unusual to be in weather up to 100 degrees or over 100 degrees. So I would have to be careful about subjecting this to those kinds of temperatures. But it's not it's not a G-Shock, obviously, right? And here it is next to a G-Shock, just to give you an idea of the size. So it's a little strange looking. It's certainly a very specific look, and you have to be okay with people sort of noticing you and commenting on the fact that you have an iPod on your wrist. But if you're okay with that, you can pull it off. And here are all the reasons why I think it actually makes a reasonably good watch. It's nice having your this doesn't really speak to the fact that it's a good watch, but it is nice to have your music player, and your audiobook player, and also your radio. This has a radio as well, strapped to your wrist, so it's kind of a nice convergence. If you already have an iPhone or an Android phone or some kind of a smartphone, then you may not be too impressed. But if you're still using a feature phone and you have a separate player, then it might be interesting or advantageous for you to combine your watch and your music players all into one device. As I said before, the battery is actually adequate. Apple says that you can get 24 hours of continuous playback out of it. Even if that's on the optimistic side, that's still plenty of time if you charge it every couple of days. Assuming you're not constantly listening to music, then the battery life will actually be adequate for you. The time should stay relatively accurate. It picks up the time when you synchronize it with iTunes. So as long as you synchronize it on a fairly regular basis, then the time should actually be okay. Computers and devices are actually notoriously poor timekeepers, so if you don't synchronize it on a regular basis, I imagine the time would drift pretty significantly. But your computer likely synchronizes against a time server regularly. So as long as you synchronize your watch with your computer, then it'll actually stay very accurate. Here, let's compare it. And compare the time to this atomic G-Shock. You can see it's actually very, very close. It's small and it's comfortable. Again, it's something like 0.74 ounces, and it's about 1.5 by 1.5 inches. So it's actually fairly small by today's watch standards. You get the the day, the date, both on the dial of the watch. You also have a stopwatch, and you have a countdown timer. So it's pretty functional. What else? It's also fairly configurable. I'm using the black background here. You can go into settings, and let's see here. Let's see if I can find where this is. Date and time. You can change the face to be white. So we'll check that out. I kind of like the black better. There you go. You can change it however you want. So that's kind of neat. Maybe in the future there'll be a software update, and if this concept catches on, maybe they'll actually allow some different configurations, kind of like the old MSN Direct spot watches. So I'll go ahead and change it back to black. And there you go. So it's pretty decent. Again, it's a bit gimmicky, but it's not as gimmicky as I thought, which is why I decided to actually go ahead and do the review. I can actually see people doing this. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, mostly because I like G-Shocks. I like watches that are sort of big and tough and that I never have to take off and never have to worry about. But it actually works. And also, I have a smartphone, and so I don't really need a second player strapped to my wrist. But if you do decide to do it, consider using one of these NATO straps. It's very comfortable and it works fairly well. And I think you'll be surprisingly pleased with how the new Ipod Nano works as a watch. Thanks for watching.